Good evening, members of the media, Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers Blanchard and Joseph Isaac, Cabinet Secretary, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of the Environment, Chairman of the Shelter Subcommittee. Welcome to tonight's Tropical Storm Kirk media briefing, and would also like to say good night to all the many listeners and viewers. As you're aware, what was up to yesterday the remnants of Kirk is now a reasonable size and intensity storm. Kirk is packing winds of 60 miles per hour, and we have seen a slight shift to the north, which means it is heading more in our direction. At this point, I will ask Marshall to come forward and provide us with all the statistics and information on Tropical Storm Kirk.
Good evening to all. I'd like to recognize the presence of the Prime Minister, all the other ministers, the Cabinet Secretary, the heads of department, the press, and all listening. As of yesterday, the Dominica Met Service was monitoring what was the remnants of Tropical Depression Kirk over the tropical Atlantic. The system was showing signs of regeneration during last night with a high chance of tropical cyclone formation. At 5 a.m. this morning, the system regained tropical storm status with maximum sustained winds near 45 miles per hour. The system continued on a westward track near 18 miles per hour towards the area, and at 8 a.m., Dominica, to include Martinique and Guadeloupe, were placed under tropical storm warning. At 11 a.m. today, the maximum sustained winds increased to 50 miles per hour as the system moved closer to the area. By 2 p.m., reports from a Hurricane Hunter aircraft indicated that maximum sustained winds increased further to 60 miles per hour, extending to 115 miles from the center. At 5 p.m., Tropical Storm Kirk was located near latitude 12.7 degrees north and longitude 55.7 degrees west, or about 420 kilometers east-southeast of Dominica. The movement is towards the west-northwest at about 18 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds at 60 miles per hour. Little change in strength is expected before the system reaches the island. On the forecast track, Kirk is expected to begin affecting Dominica by tomorrow Thursday, producing winds to tropical storm force of between 39 to 73 miles per hour, scattered thunderstorms, and rainfall amounts of 4 to 8 inches, with higher amounts in elevated areas. Rough seas with swells up to 4 meters or 13 feet can be expected. Residents are advised to continue to monitor the progress of Kirk and to make all the necessary precautions and to make all the necessary preparations and take all the necessary precautions to protect life and property. The next advisory will be issued at 8 p.m.
Thank you very much, Marshall, and we will be taking note of the 8 p.m. advisory and provide further information to the general public. The National Emergency Planning Organization met today in 2 sessions, and it heard several reports from the members of NEPO. The Honorable Prime Minister is here with us tonight, and he will address the general public on some of the issues that were dealt with and some of the decisions that are required at this time. Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, and good evening. Good evening to our citizens and residents. It's yet another one. You know, it's almost like a drill session these days. You know, but that's the current reality which we're faced with the advent of climate change and the impacts of climate change, and the challenges which countries like ours are faced with. And at the United Nations this week, Dominica will be making a very bold statement again on matters relating to climate change, and and calling on the international community to develop world to do more. As a matter of fact, we are urging the UN to set up a special fund for countries that have been impacted by these climatic conditions. You cannot rely on the traditional insurance arrangement to insure all countries. The sheer cost just to mobilize the state to prepare for the storm, to prepare for it, is very costly. And it's a challenge that we will continue to face in an increasing fashion. So I share the anxieties that all of you have with the frequency of these of the storms, all of which have been predicted by scientists. Say to us that they will become more frequent and also more ferocious. And again, the behavior of Kirk reminds us that we must not take anything for granted. So we were monitoring Kirk for the last few days. Then it was recognized that it had become, there was no formation of it, and that it would have died a natural death. But it resurrected. It formed itself back, almost like in a twinkle of an eye. And so unless these things pass us completely, we're not out of the hook. And those of us who have good memory would recall Lenny. Lenny actually passed us and did a boomerang on us. It came back to us and destroyed the west coast of Dominica, which has cost us millions of dollars to construct sea defenses along almost the entire west coast of Dominica. If you drive from Cotsed to Capuchin, you will see all of these retaining walls, sea defense walls, in large measure responding to the ravages of Lenny, and also the climate change and its impact on our coastlines, its impact on our way of life in our country. So this is why this government and the National Emergency Planning Organization, we're not taking anything for granted, and we're not leaving anything to chance. Obviously, as we've always said, we as NEPO will do everything that we can, but ultimately our security is in the hands of the Lord. So as human beings, we will do everything possible to prepare ourselves, but we leave it to the Lord for our own safety and security. And this is why we are saying to the citizens, all citizens, all residents, that you too must not take this for granted. And I know natural, normal human behavior is that after a while you will feel that this is the nuisance little boy shouting wolf, wolf, when there's no wolf. And you say, well, no storm is going to come, and let's forget about these fellas and so forth. They don't know storm coming. They said Barry was coming, it didn't come. They said Isaac was coming, it didn't come. And look at another Kirk again. I'm not in that business. I'm going about my life as if nothing's going to happen. I want to caution us against the temptation. It's a natural temptation to think that way and to eventually behave in that way, because we do not have to go back very far in our memory to relay and relate to instances when we would have taken things for granted or not prepared ourselves as individual households. So all systems are in place, as Mr. Schillenford indicated. We met twice today to review our plan. The plan is in place, the plan is there. It's a matter of us continuously reviewing it, ensuring that everything is in place from the last time, and pushing as much as possible. And one of the things that I have noted, and which is important and beneficial to the country, is that there is a greater sense of responsibility, there's a greater sense of purpose, and there's a greater sense of commitment to the task by those who make up NIPO. And I think it's important. And I think too, it is a greater awareness of our own individual responsibilities and our collective responsibilities, and a greater commitment to ourselves and to our country. So I commend everyone at NIPO for their unwavering dedication and commitment to the task. And of course, to our friends at the ODM and the Met Office who are on duty 24/7, 7 days a week, ensuring that they monitor this thing and advise us on what actions we need to take. So it is not the situation where, they are asleep and they're not paying attention. I can tell you that I am very pleased and satisfied with the level of diligence and commitment and professionalism at the NIPO, and there has been a dramatic improvement in the operations there. And I want to thank everyone. Of course, thank Mr. Schillingford for sharing with us and making it so available in the whole process. So in terms of those who are advising us on our preparation and our response, I can say to the citizens and residents of this country, we have solid people here in Dominica who have a wealth of knowledge and experience, who are assisting us and advising us in this process. Because the decisions which they take in large measure come from advice, and I respect the advice. Having said this, I also say to you that all of the systems in place, and of course we'll hear from the shelter, the shelter committee led by Mr. Toussaint of the local government department, on where we have the shelters, and he has indicated to me that there was a surge in the number of citizens making their homes available to their neighbors, and I say praise be to God for that. And that's what it's supposed to be, and that's what it should be. I will not go into a sermon this evening as I did last time, but I am happy that the Lord has responded to my prayers, and for us opening our hearts to our fellow men. So with prayer, all things are possible. With the Lord, all things are possible. We have taken a decision to close schools for tomorrow. More than likely there will not be school on Friday, but let us wait and see what happens, because I want our children to be in school as much as possible. So we will take a decision to close all schools tomorrow, Thursday, the 27th of September 2017. And we will take a decision later on in respect to school on Friday. Okay? And in respect to work, there has been an advice to not have work tomorrow, but I am deferring taking a decision on this until the 8 p.m. advisory. So we will get back to you by 8:30 this evening in respect to work in the country. And our primary responsibility is to your safety. So we will not take any decision that will not place you in safety. But let us see how things go tonight. But certainly by 8:30 this evening, we will take a definitive decision in respect to work. But there's advice that we should not work tomorrow. But give us a couple more hours to assess things, and we'll wait for the 8 p.m. advisory, and we shall inform you of this. Again, I will meet with the Chief of Police and the High Command of the Police Force at 8 p.m. tonight to further review our security arrangements. They were part of our 2 meetings today, and I'll meet them specifically again this evening to ensure everything's in place. So I want to say to us, do not take this thing for granted. Let us do what we have been told over and over to do, and let us listen attentively to the ODM and the Met Office for the advisory. Let us not take anything for granted, and we really are getting better at preparing ourselves, and I commend all of you in the country for responding, because the more we prepare ourselves and the better we prepare ourselves, and the most seriously we take the preparation, is the less possible impact on lives and property that we can have. So it always be better to be safe than sorry. And so I want to let you know again, we shall keep you informed throughout the night and going into tomorrow morning. I'm giving you the updates and informing you of the decisions which the Cabinet would take based on the advice of the National Emergency Planning Organization. So I want to pass back to Mr. Shillingford and to say to you, let us be calm, let us be focused. Those of you who have health issues and you have to take medication at particular times, you need to ensure that your medication is secure and within reach when you need it. And of course, you've been hearing all of the advice, the things that all of us need to do as families, flashlights and so forth, and of course we'll hear from the ODM on this more specifically. So you'll hear from us at 8:30 p.m. this evening, and I wish you all the best. Let's continue to pray that this weather system will go away. As I understand it, there are several of our sister countries that have been placed on tropical storm warning: Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, and Guadeloupe. And let us pray for them as we pray for ourselves, that this storm will weaken and it will have no impact on lives and properties in our respective countries. Thank you very much and good night.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. And as you heard it, there will be no schools tomorrow, all schools, and the decision will be taken later on the issue of work. One very important component of disaster management is shelter. And as you know, the whole thing of disaster management is ensuring that people are always safe at all times. We do not want anybody to get injured or killed as a result of these systems. So that is why shelters are put in place. That is why people should heed the call and go to shelters if they think the situation is such that they need that kind of protection. So at this point, I'll call the chairman of the shelters subcommittee, Mr. Glenroy Toussaint, to tell us about the shelters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Rufus Skerrit, Ministers Blanchard and Isaac, Cabinet Secretary, Ambassador Steve Farrell, PS of the Environment, PS Prevost, the media, Dominicans, both here and abroad, good evening. As the chairman indicated, shelter management is really about saving lives, and that is what disaster risk reduction is all about. And certainly, as he indicated, shelters plays a critical role in that process. And so NIPO has that critical responsibility in ensuring that the citizenry is safe, and in ensuring that the safeguard of the citizenry, shelters have to be made available to the general public. And so, with the approaching tropical storm Isaac, NIPO in fact put the necessary mechanism in place to ensure that the entire population was in fact secured by way of providing what we can say a safe haven for our population. And so we had identified and of course published 108 shelters to serve the general public. And of course the Honorable Prime Minister alluded to the fact that persons in fact have consented to their homes. And we really want, and I want to echo as well the sentiment of the Honorable Prime Minister in really recognizing those persons who have offered their homes, you know, to the general public, to friends and families and loved ones. I think that approach is really in keeping with the principles of the good book, the Bible. So certainly we really want to commend those individuals. We want to appeal to the general public, and I want to say that we are going to open shelters immediately. So all shelters shall be open immediately. Let me repeat, all shelters shall be opened immediately. And as I said that, I want to appeal to the general public. Having said that shelters should be open immediately, we want persons to, once you have made that determination that your home is not safe, and particularly those persons who are living in flood-prone areas and areas that are, you know, susceptible to landslides and falling rocks, we are really appealing to you to go to the closest shelter that is made available to you. If you feel that you don't want to go to shelter, then go to a secured home in the community so that you can be safe. Because as I indicated, it's all about the safety and security of our citizenry, and that is important. We really want to call on the people. We know oftentimes in Dominica we wait the last minute to do so. I am saying and I'm appealing to the general public that within half an hour we should have people going to the shelters. So within half an hour's time, people should begin the preparation to be moving to those shelters, because very early we had put the shelter managers on alert that we are going to hopefully make an announcement later today for the opening of the shelters. So we are appealing again to the general public. You've made that determination that your home is not safe. We know persons are still in vulnerable situations. Once you've made that determination, we're encouraging persons to go to the shelters early enough so that our people can be safe. Again, we will appeal to you that when you come to the shelters, do not come with your hands swinging. At least come with some water, some dried food, some canned foods that can at least last for at least 24 to 36 hours. We're really appealing. And of course, importantly, your medication, the Honorable Prime Minister did say, your medication, those of you taking medication, if you're going to the shelter, please walk with your medication because you would need to take the medication. We really want to ensure that as much as possible, that people take this thing very seriously, because it's all about saving lives. And ultimately, if we do our collective effort as individuals, as communities, then by extension, our country will be safe throughout the passing of this tropical storm, Kirk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glenroy. And certainly we cannot repeat or overemphasize the fact that if you need a shelter, go to a shelter. If you do an assessment of your situation and you think that you need a shelter, please go to a shelter. Some information from the Office of Disaster Management. The general public is asked to be glued to their television sets, their radios, and the telephones, anything you get information from, so that you have up-to-the-minute information. I'm sure the radio stations will maybe run a little longer tonight so that they can provide the general public with more information. In terms of hazards across the country associated with Kirk, moderate to heavy rains, which could cause life-threatening flash flooding and damage to property. Landslides and rockfalls, again precipitated by heavy rains, and that could cause road blockades and marooning of communities and intensify flood impact. Gusty winds up to tropical storm force level, and that could damage buildings that are poorly constructed or already compromised. Remember, we're coming out of the Hurricane Maria situation, and there are still houses that may be so compromised that they would not be able to withstand that kind of a wind. People in compromised structures, including structures with partial covering, tarpaulins, and buildings with structural damage, as well as there are some quick fixes, and we understand Dominica is a high rainfall country. It rains almost all the time, and some people had to do a little quick fix, put a few sheets of galvanized here and there, you know, just to shelter. We would ask you to move to a shelter if you really think your situation is not good. Rough to very rough seas, people living on the coastal areas, around coastal areas in Dominica, especially when the storm will have exited into the Caribbean Sea. It would be good that you monitor the situation there so that you could move if needs be. Residents in low-lying areas, again, you have to be mindful of flooding, either from heavy rains, rivers, ravines, waterways, or from the sea. I know some people have met me and said, boy, I tired this packing things and unpacking things. You may just have to do it one more time. So all your very important documents, ensure that you have them in plastic bags, Ziploc bags, garbage bags, anything that will secure them from the weather, from the rain, your passports, health records, land titles, etc., etc. And also try to have some cash on hand the ATMs may not work in small denominations because a little rural shop may not have change for $100. So ensure that you have small denominations. Don't forget basic items such as water, food to last you for at least 3 days, battery-powered radios. And that is something we keep saying over and over. There may not be any electricity, so you'd still need to keep abreast of what is going on. So a battery-powered radio is very important. Extra batteries, first aid kits, cell phones, your cell phones, ensure that they are charged just before the power goes, if it does go. And the Prime Minister mentioned medication, prescription medication, especially if you're going to, and some of our elderly folks who are on special medication, if you're going out to a shelter, ensure that you carry those with you so that you can have them when you need them. So again, we have this situation, Tropical Storm Kirk, 60 miles per hour wind. As I indicated earlier, it is veering a little to the north, which is not very good for us. We are hoping that it will dissipate before it reaches the islands, and we pray God to guide us through this system again, and I know He will. So, thanks to the members of the media for accommodating us for this press or media briefing, and we will have some more announcements for you at 8:30 tonight. Thank you very much. Oh, any questions?